Hey everybody, Brian here. Listen, Bill is out of pocket. He ran to Sonic because he wanted to get a Diet Coke and maybe a hamburger. I'm not sure. Anyway, so it's just me today. This isn't going to be a long one, but we're going to cover rig counts, drilling productivity, as well as declines. Declines are finally here. We've been talking about it for months, and we could see it coming. So anyway, all that said, that's what we're going to cover. If that doesn't have interest to you, go ahead and click off. But stick around if you want to learn a little bit about some of the rig counts, what's happening there, and some of the declines and where we might be headed next. So stick around and talk to you in a minute. Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. Hope you're doing well. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the drilling productivity report that came out on Monday. And of course, that's one of the many data sources that we capture is in the drilling productivity because it kind of gives us insight into each particular basin. So I'm not going to make this super long, probably maybe 5 to 15 minutes, something like that. So first things first, on the Baker Hughes rig count, we continue to drop rigs. However, it's important to understand that the production that we see in June is because of March rigs. So it's about a 90-day lag, sometimes more, sometimes less, and drilled and uncompletes come into that math as well. So just a little rooting back in March, we were probably around let's see, we were over 740 rigs in March, April, and we have since dropped to 687. So that means that there's going to be more production declines coming. So at this rig level, which is relatively close to our highs, not our absolute highs, I think those were at the end of last year. So at the end of last year, we were on 780. We dropped some. So the impact that we're seeing in June's numbers is really because of this higher tier, and you could take a look. We've dropped off that. So we have modeled and am anticipating much more in declines. June it started to hit. We've been talking about it for several months. So let me skip down to this. Let's see, oil production, which is still growing. You know, if somebody wants to look at a particular basin, I do have the comments active, and I'll get into that because I did drop a few things on the YouTube comments that are going to be relevant. So oil production in the shale regions only, you got to bear in mind there's some conventional and offshore that doesn't get captured here, is around 9.4 million barrels a day. But every month, and this is what we look at, every month we're declining around 600,000 barrels a day. So that means we have to bring on over 600,000 barrels a day, otherwise we will decline. So what's happened? That curve, new production has dropped off, and we are now below 600,000 barrels a day. So on new production. So what that translates to is we are now seeing production drop. And I added it in the YouTube comments, but I'll read it out loud. Crude declined in June by roughly 16,000 barrels per day. That is after bringing on almost 600,000 barrels a day of new production. So that means we added 600,000 barrels a day of production on a base. What is our base production? Let's take a look at that. And all these charts are on energyrogue.com. You sign up for Rogue Edge today. It's only $89 a month. You have access to 150 interactive downloadable charts along with a weekly PDF report, a video that is sent out only to our members that give you insights into some of the fundamentals and technicals that are happening in the energy business. Okay, commercial over. So let's see, on 12.3 million barrels a day, we decline roughly 600,000 barrels a day. So think about that for a second. It's roughly 5%. So we lose 5%, and there's a lot of reasons why it's 5%, not 3% or 1%. There's a long thesis. If you're curious, there's a link below. You can reach out to us. You can book a meeting, and we'd be happy to walk you through some of the math. But essentially, you can take a look, and let's take a look before we move on to gas. And let's just take a look at the last few months, and let's look at Permian. Permian is declining roughly 4,000 barrels a day. So Niobrara added. So Niobrara added. Haynesville is going to be nothing. Eagleford declined a lot. That declined 14,000 barrels a day, almost 15,000 barrels a day. Bakken, that added. So 4,000 barrels a day. Marcellus Utica, virtually nothing. And the Anadarko, let's see what the Anadarko declined 3,000 barrels a day. So we're not going to dive into each one on how much they brought on new production. If you want to, you can subscribe. You'll have access to these charts, or you can book a meeting and I'll walk you through each basin that you might be interested in. So gas rigs have been dropping. So you can see these, but a lot of the drop, we went from 157 down to 135. That's going to be big. Because where did it drop? Let's reset this because I want to see what Haynesville and Marcellus is looking like on rigs. I'll keep Utica, and I'm just going to go on these, and these dropped from Utica 14 to 13, Marcellus 39 to 34, Haynesville 72 down to 51. That's going to be a big one. That means that we've got some heavy declines in Haynesville coming. You got to weigh that with some of the drilled and uncompletes that haven't been brought to market. A lot of those have been clearing lately because of an increased infrastructure. But again, just to reroute, oil declined 16,000 barrels a day after bringing on over 600,000 barrels a day of new production. And let's take a look at natural gas production. We've been growing and growing, so a lot of the gas bears are expecting continued growth. We do not. And that's part of the reason that we have a bullish outlook. But again, we're not financial advisors. All the disclaimers are down below. But every month on roughly 100 BCF a day, let's actually take a look at the last week was 101.8. I've got early reports that say it's looking a little further down this week on production. So, so when we take a look at it, we're declining every month on 101 BCF a day or 102 BCF a day, over 3 BCF a day. So what that means is we have to bring on over 3 BCF a day of new production that is brought online. So one of the things I want to point you to is that production has been dropping. And if you map that according to rigs, which again, if you're interested, you can book a meeting and I'll walk you through it. But if you map that, this decline started happening before we saw rigs declining. That means that we're losing rig efficiency relative to recent history, and we're dropping. So we are now beneath this, and here we go, where we take a look at declines, and we have crossed. We actually did a live stream last week, and I think we said we expected June numbers to show a decline. And I actually have a mistake on my comment. I said crude declined. It's natural gas. Nat gas declined. Declined. In June by 150,000 MCF per day. That is after bringing on over 3.1 BCF a day. So anyhow, we are headed down on production. So that means that we're not going to grow from here. We were a little early on projecting this decline. I think we called for it in April, and obviously April production has been resilient, but we have started decline, and we expect this to happen. It's been tempered a little bit this month because some of the ducks in Haynesville have come on. So we do have all those charts selected as well. And, if we want to take a look at it, we can increase the rig count in Haynesville has dropped. And let's take a look at the drilled and uncompletes. No, actually, the drilled and uncompletes have continued to rise in Haynesville. So there's been some midstream infrastructure issues in Haynesville. So I'm curious to see how much volume this brings on. And for anybody that doesn't realize, the Haynesville is one of the most prolific areas that will bring on natural gas, and Marcellus as well. So when we take a look at this, there could be some temperament with, or some of the production declines may be offset with some of the Haynesville. So that is pretty much it that I have for today. So do me a favor, if you've enjoyed anything or appreciate anything, do write a comment, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. It helps the algorithms, which helps us get our information out there, because we think this is very important on energy markets for oil and for natural gas. So especially impacting price in the United States. So please like, subscribe, share it, repost it. And if you're curious to learn a little bit more about Energy Rogue, there's information down below, and you can book a meeting directly with myself and Bill Shanahan, as long as he's not going to Sonic. And again, he went to Sonic today, so I'm going to give him a razz about that. So that's all I had. Hope you have a fantastic day, and thanks so much, and have a great one. Thanks again for sticking around.